The story begins with the introduction of the city called Paradise. They finally arrive in the royal capital as triumphant heroes. One of their companions mentions that they will need to think about getting a job because now that they've defeated the Demon King, it's not the end. They still have to live the rest of their lives. They all agree that they need to do this, but Frieren doesn't quite understand, and the man with blue hair says she will have a much longer life than he can imagine. She eventually understands why it doesn't make sense to her. At the city's entrance, they are greeted by everyone, and the knights escort them to the castle. There, the king greets them, Rimmel the brave, Eisen the warrior, Hyder the priest, and Frieren the mage. They thank them for defeating the Demon King and ushering in a new era of peace. During a night of celebration, the king announces that statues will be erected in their honor in the main square. After talking about these statues, they gather and realize that their journey would end that night. They reminisce about how, at the beginning, Rimmel and Eisen were almost executed for a crime against the kingdom. But they acknowledge that they were all quite troublesome at the start, and they say that the time they spent together was a good one. Frieren agrees but still laments that it was such a short time. Rimmel is surprised that Frieren finds the time short because, during their journey, he has become quite old. While he is still talking, a shooting star catches Frieren's attention. He mentions that this meteor shower only happens once every 50 years and is a good way to start a time of peace. Bem adds that it's difficult to see it from there and promises Rimmel that in 50 years, he'll take her to see it from a better place. The day after, Frieren says goodbye and leaves to collect new spells in the Central Lands. She says she'll do it for 100 years and will soon return to see them. She experienced a lot during her solo journey, living through incredible moments. Once, she even found herself inside a small chest. Then, one day, when she couldn't find a dragon horn, she remembered leaving one with Rimmel. She decided to retrieve it, especially since the upcoming meteor shower made it a good time to visit. As she arrived in the city, she noticed everything had changed since her last visit. She got lost but was surprised when she met an old man who looked incredibly wrinkled. To her astonishment, that man was Rimmel. He told her that 50 years had passed since they last saw each other. Frieren talked to him about the dragon horn, and he revealed that he had kept it in a drawer at his house. However, the dark energy emanating from it made him hesitant to touch it, so he chose not to disturb it. Frieren tells Rimmel that he could have left the dragon horn anywhere, but he feels responsible for it because it was entrusted to him by their comrade. Frieren then leaves Rimmel's house and gives the dragon horn to a bird. She notices their statue in the city center and goes to meet their two other companions who haven't changed much. They spend more time together, facing monsters as a team. At night, they watch the meteors together again. Rimmel becomes emotional, realizing how much he's experienced in his life. Some time later, Rimmel is the first to bid farewell. During his funeral, people criticize Frieren for not shedding tears, but her companions cover for her. As Rimmel is buried, Frieren realizes that she didn't spend just a short 10 years with him. Human life is just too short. She wishes she had spent more time with him, and tears flow from her eyes. The priest returns to the holy city, and Frieren asks him if he's afraid of death. The priest says that he is a companion of those who defeated the Demon King and says that only joy awaits him in the afterlife. Then they bid each other farewell. Frieren then approaches the dwarf and tries to take him along, but he declines, citing his age and inability to wield an axe as before. She has to continue her journey alone but promises to meet him in a distant future. 20 years later, while wandering through a forest, Frieren is guided by a girl to the priest, who surprisingly is still alive. In his house, the girl is helping him with everything. The priest introduces the girl as Fern, a war orphan, and asks Frieren to take her as a disciple. However, she declines because novice mages rarely survive, and she doesn't want to be responsible for a friend's death. The priest then asks Frieren to read a special book that may contain 2 new spells, one related to resurrection and the other about immortality. She expresses doubts about its efficacy, so he requests that she assist the girl in learning to control her mana. Outside, the girl is near a cliff and Frieren appears, explaining her difficulty in finding her due to her camouflaging ability and mana control, which is very impressive for her age. Fern says that she could become a talented mage if she can hit a stone on the other side with her mana. The girl releases a powerful mana burst, but is sad because it dissipates before reaching the stone. Frieren asks if the girl likes magic, and she answers kind of. Frieren says that she is just like her. Frieren continued to live with the girl, providing lessons to her. They spent years together as a family. One night, the priest asked Frieren about the progress of the girl's training. Frieren mentioned that the girl had progressed 4 years in what usually takes 10. However, Frieren also noted that the girl focused too much on magic, spending most of her time in the forest. Frieren says that she would probably decipher the grimoire before she became a true mage. But their conversation was interrupted when the priest suddenly fell to the ground. He said that it was a miracle that he remained alive till now and asked Frieren to finish deciphering the grimoire soon. Frieren attempted to discuss the priest's condition with Enter, but Enter didn't reveal much as she hadn't yet managed to reach the stone. She mentioned that the priest had saved her and provided a home, and that he should live longer because he was a good person who helped others. The girl wanted to become self-reliant, relieving Frieren of her responsibilities. She convinced Frieren to let her do as she wished. Days passed with research and training until one day, after much concentration, the girl successfully cast a unique spell. In the morning, Frieren shared her findings with Priest, stating that there was no mention of immortality or resurrection in the grimoire. The priest knew that there was no such thing in the grimoire. Frieren was confused. The priest then asked about Fern. Frieren says that she has become someone capable. The priest that now she can go with Frieren and won't get in her way. Frieren realized that she was tricked by this old priest. Priest tells Frieren to collect her payment from the desk in her room and leave with Fern that night. He didn't want the girl to witness another loved one's death. Frieren criticized the priest's decision but also acknowledged that the girl was ready to move on. She started crying, and Priest comforted her, acknowledging that she was a good person. Frieren asked Priest why she had taken them in, and after some thought, Priest explained that it was what their comrade Rimmel would have done. This made Frieren smile, and she decided it was time to do the same. A day later, the two girls stood before Priest's grave, pouring the liquor he had loved onto it and saying their goodbyes. They continued their journey, taking on small missions and learning various types of magic, even spells for removing rust from objects and improving the taste of grapes. Frieren enjoyed collecting information along the way. One day, they accepted a request from an elderly lady who had been looking after a statue of a hero for years but could no longer do so alone. The lady mentioned how the hero had saved her village from demons but was challenging to deal with when they tried to create a statue of him. The statue ended up being rather plain due to his uncooperativeness. Frieren cleaned the area around the statue and asked the lady about flowers for it. The mention of blue moon flowers triggered a memory for Frieren, as she recalled that Rimmel had loved those flowers. The lady explained that they used to grow deep in the forest but hadn't been seen for nearly a decade. Frieren decided to study the ecosystem and learn more about the flowers before planting them at the statue. When asked if it was for Rimmel, Frieren said it was more for herself. They spent days, weeks, and months searching for the flowers but couldn't find them. Frieren realized how much time they had spent in that town. The elderly lady suggested that Frieren, who had lived many more adult years than both of them combined, might never stop searching if she didn't talk to someone about it. To ease her obsession, the lady handed Frieren a small bag of flower seeds she had been looking for. When first spoke to Frieren about the seeds, Frieren understood the message. They decided to give up the search soon. However, a squirrel stole their seed. While they were following a trail of the squire, they stumbled upon a tower. Frieren remembered Rimmel mentioning the flowers and decided to climb the tower to see if they were there. At the top of the tower, they found various flowers, and Frieren apologized for being late. The girl didn't understand why Frieren would go to such lengths for magic, but Frieren made her see that she had also chosen the path of magic. Frieren planted the flowers around the hero's statue and made a flower crown for the hero. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel.